Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to today's video. I want to do something a little bit different and not talk about DC specifically today. I've been watching a bunch of old Dallas and Knots Landing documentaries and it got my nostalgia pumping. And it got me to thinking about my emotions and thoughts about entertainment today. Consuming entertainment today isn't much fun anymore. Talking with other people about entertainment that's being made today isn't much fun. Going on social media, seeing the hot takes and the anger and the division and the hatred isn't any fun. So I want to hear from you who are around my age. I'm 51 years old. I have great memories of growing up with the A-Team, Knight Rider, Dallas, Dynasty, the Colbys, Knots Landing. Great pioneering shows. They were fun. The movies I grew up with, whether it was Terminator, The Running Man, Rocky, Rambo, Superman the movie, Star Wars and New Hope. It was all fun, and I lived vicariously through these movies. I saw the characters and I wanted to be those characters, so I was living my young life and my young adult life vicariously via these characters, and I bet a lot of you were as well. We hear a strange phrase, a foreign phrase that doesn't make sense to me from people these days. It's important to see yourself on the screen. Not to this geezer. I can't imagine anything more boring than seeing myself on the screen. That's not what I want to do. That's not what's interesting to me. It's about seeing something and someone a bit glamorous, a bit attractive, and vicariously becoming them via my imagination. And I bet you I'm not the only one that feels that way. Sorry about that, very unprofessional. Someone came in, I had to pause the video. Anyway, this isn't a professional video, this is not a professional channel. We don't have many followers, but I talk about DC and DC films mostly. But today I just wanted to talk about how sad it is about the way we talk about entertainment today, the hatred. And it all comes actually from the industry itself, because the industry has been infested by people who don't love entertainment, that didn't grow up on the stuff that we grew up on. These are people representing a generation that doesn't exist. Because when we talk about the generation they're trying to attract to cinema and television, those people, those kids, Gen Z or even millennials, don't go to cinemas. They don't watch television. They don't really consume entertainment. They're mostly on TikTok. They watch a bit of streaming now and again. So this generation isn't that interested in what Hollywood and the UK are trying to sell. Now, what is the term that we're looking for without being derogatory? I mean, the term woke has been coined, and I suppose if you understand what that word means today, not what it used to mean something really good and compassionate and charitable and kind and about equality. But that's not what it means anymore. So even that term has been coined in a negative sense. As I say, I remember growing up on entertainment, and I'm not looking at the stuff I grew up with via a nostalgic lens. That's the way it was for me. I grew up with learning difficulties. I found out a few years ago that I've been suffering with dyslexia all my life. If you follow me on Twitter or Threads or wherever, right, you'll see that there's barely any punctuation on my posts, and there's some spelling mistakes. And sometimes when I'm having arguments with people on social media, they'll bring up the fact that I can't spell properly, that I can't punctuate. I think it's not very gentlemanly or ladylike to bring that up when you're just having a heated debate. But there you go. Once you lose the argument, these people have to bring something up, and it's the fact that I'm dyslexic. Now, dyslexia to me is a disability, and it's something that I've been fighting with and fighting against all my life. But because I had confidence issues, I didn't speak really properly till I was 2 years old, and I didn't have any friends at school at all. So all I had was my television screen. And as I say, I lived vicariously through that television screen. And as I said earlier, I bet you I'm not the only one. I used to come home from school and my mum would be watching Sons and Daughters, The Young Doctors. In the evening, she'd be watching Coronation Street, Crossroads, the old Emmerdale Farm, whatever it was, right? So she got me into soaps. I absolutely loved the idea of a soap, this continuing saga that goes on for years and years and years. And they're still running today. In fact, soaps are probably the only kind of entertainment format not affected or infected by the woke mentality. That's very, very interesting to me. Maybe it's because soaps have always been very inclusive and have dealt with social issues in a really good professional manner without dividing audiences. That's an interesting thing for me as well. And so, like, English entertainment is dying today, but when I was growing up in the 80s and when I became a young adult in the 90s, it was very interesting. It was at its peak when you look at something like Friends, or when I was a lot younger, they were rerunning Happy Days. And really, Friends is a reimagination of Happy Days. The amount of Easter eggs on Friends for Happy Days, I think there's at least 10, 20 references for Happy Days. Remember when Phoebe's giving birth and that crazy doctor keeps on telling Phoebe and the rest of the friends that he's in love with the Fonz, and it's hilarity in shoes. But it used to be an imagination with our entertainment, and there isn't today. There isn't that imagination. Their motivations for making entertainment is not to entertain. You'll have to ask them what their motivations are for entertainment. We shouldn't even call the entertainment industry entertainment anymore. And we've seen this infestation of the kind of woke virus coming to gaming and music and every single industry out there today. But there were better times. And some people may think I am being overly nostalgic in that situation. I want to hear your stories. If you're around my age, I want to hear your stories and experiences in watching entertainment. But I'm not interested in hot takes. I don't want to hear about what you hate. Because at the end of the day, if I want to hear from people who hate stuff, I can just go on Twitter. I can go on Facebook. I can go on Instagram. That's not what I'm interested in. I want your experiences of watching great 80s television. Maybe you watch 70s television. Your films, your favourite films growing up, and your experiences and what those TV shows meant to you. For example, I remember living in a bedsit, struggling to pay the rent and feeding myself while I was watching Smallville. Smallville was something that was an emotional crutch for me for many, many years. I don't know how I would have survived in my own personal life if it wasn't for Smallville. Did you have a show like that you took to your heart so deeply that it kept you going? I bet you did. And they're the kind, you're the kind of people I want to talk to. I don't want to hear about angry people. I don't want to look. I know a lot of us are angry about what's happened to the entertainment industry today, and I understand that. But I'm bored of complaining about modern day entertainment. It is what it is. They're going to go bankrupt. They're going out of business. They're in trouble because of the way they run their business today. They blatantly hate a portion of their own customers. It's boring at this point. But it was an exciting time, wasn't it? Growing up in the 80s. I remember a show called Automan about an AI kind of being who worked with a real life cop. It was brilliant. In fact, the effects for the time were sensational. And that was a fun show. We had Airwolf. We had so many things. We had the mini-series. I remember watching so many mini-series as a kid as well. So there's a lot of I was watching YouTube. I was watching the Knots Landing reunion. I was watching a bunch of Dallas reunions. And it was great fun to just listen to the cast and listen to what they had to say. And I feel that kind of interest and excitement in entertainment has gone. As I said earlier, it's not much fun to be following entertainment anymore. There's not that passion, there's not that excitement. I used to look up to actors like gods. I remember I used to watch the Oscars and, imagining I was standing on that stage thanking everyone because you wanted to be those people, not because they looked like you, because they were celebrities, because they were glamorous, because you would never actually meet them or hear them speak unless you saw them in films or you saw them in interviews. I think what social media has done has taken away that illusion to looking up to a celebrity as a god. They're on there, they have a take, sometimes you won't agree with them, sometimes you'll argue with them because you can't help it when you see something you don't like written down. And then they'll block you or they'll mute you, and that kind of idolization of a celebrity, an actor, a singer disappears and it's been vanquished. Social media has destroyed a lot of good elements of our entertainment. And I think, there's those accounts that keep on telling you, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? That's how they work. They work off of interactions. It's their business to wind you up. Who is your favourite version of Superman, they're going to ask you, right? You say Christopher Reeve, someone says Henry Cavill. Then there's an argument. They work off of toxicity and hatred. I don't hate any version of Superman. Dean Cain's my least favourite, but I don't hate the man and I don't hate what he did. So many people love what he did. Superman's my favourite character. Christopher Reeve was my first Superman. Superman the movie was the first film I ever saw. That movie is the very reason that I love film and television and stories, and why I wanted to tell stories and make my own stories and perform my own stories as well. So I have a great passion for entertainment, but the good entertainment that I grew up with, and now and again, don't get me wrong, modern entertainment, modern English-speaking entertainment gets it right, but that's very rare. It's a bit like finding water on a desert. So when you see a great piece of entertainment like Top Gun Maverick, or the first Dune movie, and looking forward to seeing the sequel, of course, the first Joker movie as well, or the Batman movie, right? Or Snyder's movies that I personally enjoy. They're like water on a desert island. Oh my God! Give me the water, I'm so thirsty! I'm thirsty for good entertainment! Oh my God, I can't get enough. Because it won't be long until we get the shitty piece of entertainment, or we get someone like Brie Larson telling me I'm a man in my 50s, so I'm a piece of shit. There's this paranoia. What was it someone asked James Gunn on Fred's the other day? They went, we hear a rumour, James, that Superman isn't going to be the main character of DC Universe, that basically that Supergirl will be introduced and Superman will just vanish. And he said, don't listen to stupid rumours. But I think as a consumer, we have become so paranoid about the people working in this industry today that I think we do have this paranoia. We don't trust modern day people working in entertainment. They don't like us. They genuinely don't like us. When you look at Access Media, who are in cahoots with the entertainment industry today, they don't like us either. They don't like me. What's going to happen? If you blatantly tell me you're a man and I don't like you, I'm going to react negatively. I'm going to react toxically. There's no other way for me to react when you say you're a man, I hate you. You don't know me. You do not know me. But you hate me because of my gender. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So there's this element of division and toxicity when talking about entertainment today. I remember going to school. Every person at school would watch Dallas, or Knots Landing, or Knight Rider, or the A-Team. Did you watch the A-Team last night? Oh my God, Hannibal's hilarious. What about when they put BA on the plane without knowing it, without him knowing it because he was scared of flying? It was fun to talk about entertainment. When we used to go to school and talk about entertainment, we didn't have hot takes. We didn't start arguing if George Reeves or Christopher Reeve was the better fucking Superman. You know, kids at school would say to me, my dad grew up on George Reeves, better Superman. But there wouldn't be, arguments. Everyone had their takes, because the way we used to speak about entertainment was, we just spoke about it. Did you watch that last night? That was it. There was nothing deep about conversations. And one of the things that I dislike today in conversations about entertainment is the so-called average fan trying to prove what a good fan they are. Or this kind of fan that claims they're an expert in entertainment. You're just someone who watches the telly or goes to the cinema. It doesn't make you an expert. But here's the thing, here's the breaking news. There's no extra cool points for being an expert in entertainment. Love what you love. As a young man, watching something I didn't like was this. Put it on. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, well, I paid for it now. Every Tuesday on my day off from the co-op, I used to go to HMV and I used to buy a bunch of VHS movies on VHS. I used to like buying a couple of known ones, but then taking a bet, taking a pump on films that I didn't know so well. It would be really, really enjoyable to buy a film I never heard of and watch it and see if it was any good. They only used to cost about $5.99 in HMV back then, so you weren't losing very much. These days, to buy a Blu-ray or DVD or a 4K, I mean, forget the DVDs, but like a Blu-ray or 4K of a new release is about I think it's about $25.99. That's a lot of money. You'd have to get a bloody mortgage to buy 20 Blu-rays or 4Ks these days. The prices have gone up because they're not making as much money. English entertainment is dying. But in the day where I grew up, they were going to film schools, because what happened was the people who founded the studios, the Xanax, the Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal, MGM, Gulf Western, all the original founders had retired. And so brewery companies were buying these studios, and they started to realize that young people were starting to watch television and film, so they needed younger directors. So they would go to people who were leaving film schools. And the George Lucases, the Scorseses, the people like these, proper people who had a passion for telling a story and a talent for executing a good film. We don't have that kind of talent. Taika Waititi isn't a pioneering director. I know Gen Z and millennials may be shouting at their screen, but they're the facts. James Gunn is a good, capable writer-director, but I don't think he's a pioneer. He doesn't have to be. At the very least, he tries to make entertaining films. At the very least, he tries. That's what he's attempting to do. Although his stuff's very samey, isn't it? It will be interesting to see if he can pull off Superman. We will see. But there's not many pioneers. I mean, Christopher Nolan is deemed a pioneer. I'm not sure if Christopher Nolan is a pioneer or not. I do like Chris. I do like his films. I think he's a very talented writer-director. I wouldn't go as far as calling him a pioneer or saying he's up there with the great directors whose films I grew up watching. I wouldn't go that far, but he's talented. Denis Villeneuve is talented. We do have some talented directors. Matt Reeves is very talented. But these types of directors are very few and far between. actors and actresses and whatever talent identifies at these days are mostly interested in talking about being progressive, politics, identity politics, rather than talking about the films they've just made or the television shows. We see in marketing, they talk about everything but their projects, which is sad. And we, our age group grew up with a different mentality. When we used to see the marketing in the interviews, they actually were talking about their films and the mentality of their characters. That's not what they do anymore. So when when in a rarity where you get someone like Emma Stone, and I love Emma to bits, she's talking about earning the right of being a proper contestant on Jeopardy. She don't want to be on the Celebrity Special. She actually wants to earn the right like an ordinary person and be on Jeopardy. She don't talk about identity politics or being a strong female lead. She's very different gravy. That's why I love her. She's great. She's like water on a desert island. When you see actors like that or actresses like that who are not talking about politics, not saying that they hate men, it's very refreshing. And we don't have that situation in entertainment, commonly. It's very uncommon for someone like Emma Stone to be around. There's some really good actors out there who are like Emma Stone, but they're very, very rare. Most of them have become very, very toxic and hateful. You look at someone like Mark Hamill, someone I grew up watching via playing Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. He's become ultra political on his social media. That's his freedom. That's his right to be ultra political. But I don't want to follow him. I don't want to consume him. Not that I don't agree with some of his politics. I mean, he's supposed to be a liberal, but I think he's an ultra-liberal. And they're not my cup of tea because they don't like their own gender. They hate men. They're men, but they hate men. Isn't that crazy? We live in a society today where men hate other men. And these people are populated all over Hollywood. So that's what I want to do. I still want to do the DC Universe Daily. We won't be doing one today because I decided I wanted to do this and do something a little bit different. But that's why you're the people I want to hear from. Not the ones with the hot takes, but the people who grew up watching Dallas, Dynasty, TJ Hooker, Street Hawk, Airwolf, The A-Team, Knight Rider, right? All the great shows. And the movies that we grew up with in the 80s and the 90s, right? You're the kind of generation I want to hear from. And I want to hear about as I said earlier, I want to hear about your personal experiences growing up with these great shows. Because I want to do videos and I want to quote you and I want to just talk about, how you feel and how entertainment was important to you. Because I know growing up, without the entertainment we grew up with, I don't know if I'd even be here today. It was that important. And living vicariously via these characters who did not look like me and weren't me. My parents, both my parents were born over here in Cyprus. They both left Cyprus and came to the UK at a very, very young age. My father had to because he had problems with his legs and his hips and he was very, very ill. So the doctors out here back then weren't proficient enough, so he went to the UK. My mum came to the UK as a 20-year-old woman. And so I have Greek Cypriot DNA, but I feel British because I was born in the UK and I was raised in the UK. So it's very difficult and confusing when you're in the UK and people are calling you a bloody foreigner and you come here as a kid and they're calling you a Charlie boy. You don't feel you belong anywhere. So what you do is, that's not including having, being dyslexic, having learning difficulties, having confidence issues. So all I had was my television. That's all I had. And for me, my television was a magical portal into a better world. I could pretend I was TJ Hooker. I could pretend I was Faceman from the A-Team or Hannibal Smith. I could pretend I was B.A. Baracus. I wasn't a black guy with Mohican, but that didn't matter. That's what I'm talking about. The whole thing of seeing yourself on the screen is actually bollocks, right? Because how did I want to be B.A. Baracus? How did I look up to Mr. T when I wasn't a black man, right? Answer me that question, right, woke Hollywood. Answer me that question, those of you who think it's important to see yourself on the screen. Answer me how I looked up to a black man. How did I look up to Eddie Murphy? Why did I want to be Axel Foley, who was a black man from Detroit? Because he was cool, right? He was cool. I wanted to be as cool as him. I wanted to be Superman, right? I wanted to be all these characters. I wanted to be Flying Airwolf, right? I wanted to be Jesse, who was riding Street Hawk, because these characters didn't look like me, they wasn't like me, but they were either cool or they were doing something really cool. And we've lost that today in entertainment. And in the next 5 minutes, in the final 5 minutes of this video, I'll end this video how I started it. It is not fun to watch entertainment anymore. You can't live vicariously via these characters. And all these female characters we get today, I don't see how females can identify with them because they're supposed to be them. I don't think a lot of the females on television and film today are supposed to be representing ordinary everyday gals. I think they're representing crazy, insane LA, Californian women who happen to be working in Hollywood. How can you identify with people like that? But how was it that I could identify with Eddie Murphy and all the characters he played? Even in Coming to America, where he played this African prince in this fictional African country. How did I identify with him? Or, the guy who Arsenio Hall is playing in Coming to America. It didn't matter if the character was Latin. It didn't matter if the character was black. It didn't matter if the character was white. I even wanted to be, Danny Glover's character, Murtaugh, in Lethal Weapon. Of course, I also wanted to be Martin Riggs, right? I even identified with the guy in Die Hard, the black guy who's in the limo, right? He's cool, right? So for me as a kid, it didn't matter what they looked like on the screen. I could still identify with them. So as I say, maybe the woke element who talk about seeing themselves on the screen and saying how important it is, I'm challenging you and I'm telling you it's not important. But that wasn't ever the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to tell you that I'm not having fun talking about today's entertainment, watching today's entertainment. I barely watch today's entertainment anymore because it bores the fuck out of me. I'm still rewatching Friends, right? I've been rewatching Friends a lot since Matt Perry died. That really affected me deeply, and it's just great to see him on the screen. Why are millions of people watching Friends around the world instead of watching the new comedies? Why is that? Tell me that. Because Friends resonates with today's society as it did with yesterday's society, because the people making it and performing it were pioneers, and they understood what works and what doesn't work. And it isn't about identity. It isn't about seeing someone of your culture or your sexuality on the screen. Otherwise, Bros, the gay romantic comedy movie, would have made $2 billion, because there's a lot of gay people in America and around the world. Why didn't all those gay people go and watch Bros? Why did those people go and watch Top Gun Maverick, but not Bros? I'm asking you this question. So I'd love to know your great experiences of growing up watching 80s TV, 80s movies, 90s TV, 90s movies, and we can exchange all these great memories and talk about my favourite films and your favourite films. And there's a lot of favourite TV that I've never spoken about and films I've never spoken about on this channel. I want to maybe do a video once a week where we do that. And I am looking for a co-presenter as well, so we can have different segments, so we can go beyond what I'm doing today. So thank you very much for watching Movies TV Mad. As I say, I grew up on great entertainment, And I'm so grateful that I did, because I don't know if I'd even be here if I didn't.